Just trying to see what's currently happening. I can see Starbucks up about 3%. There has been some news about uh, something to do with the Chinese buying that's come in, right? They're actually thinking of selling a stake, some amount of minority stake that actually comes through. Let me see if I get some of that news. Now, this is actually worth it, right? We're going to talk about a few of these things, but let me see if I can actually put this through so you guys should be able to see it as well. Uh, I'm not sure if you guys can see it yet. Hold on. Okay, go ahead and vote. Today's question is will Trump's tariff tank the markets? Four people have come in and voted, and people believe markets will bounce back. Correction incoming, sideways already priced in, too early to tell. So let's see what happens about that. Okay, we got the Nasdaq up about 922,748. Okay, maybe you guys can't hear me clearly. Let me actually get this so I can then. You guys should be able to hear me better now. Let me just go in and check. Yeah, is this better? Just drop me a message if you can hear me clearly, please. Whew. Okay. Okay. So we're good when it comes to that. Futures do look up about 41 points. So 41 points up on the Nasdaq. We had a pretty bad day yesterday, but then we recovered through the day. So you saw the Russell 2000 actually pick up, but the Dow closed 0.37% lower. So that is something that we did see. Uh, the Nasdaq was up by 16 points, so nothing too much. The Russell 2000 was up by 0.66%, so that was actually a good move that you did see in the Russell. Mm, let me actually see if I can put this through, right? You are actually seeing Bitcoin now trying to make a move higher, right? It is actually looking like it's going to be hitting the 110,000 number as well. That's what it looks like at this moment. 109501. It's been pretty choppy in that range. Anyways, so everyone that's new here, go ahead, subscribe, and make sure you like and vote. There's a question right there on your screen. So hit that subscribe and go ahead and vote as well. I want to see what you guys think. Do you think the markets are going to be tanking, or do you think this is just noise that's currently going on? I don't know. I actually think the markets would rally from here. I don't really think it's going to have a move lower. For me, I actually think that market's going to keep going higher. Futures are up about 36 points. Some of the stocks that I'm looking at right now, yesterday, a lot of the BNPL stocks, a lot of the fintech stocks got killed. Now, that was because there was a large movement in some article that came out and said that the Amazon Prime Day sales have dropped and there has been a substantial move lower on the Amazon Prime Day numbers, about 14% lower. They were expecting 14% higher. It came down. It came to about 14% lower. You see Affirm, you see Square, you see PayPal, all down 2 to 4%. Some things, some of them even 5% lower. Amazon, on the other hand, was down about 1.84%. So that was the move on Amazon. That being said, today we have news that's come out right now by Adobe, and they say that they forecast US retailers drove $7.9 billion in online spending on July 8th. And that is up about 8.8%. You should see that on your screen right there because I'm going to be putting in some of these articles that I am reading, at least the heavier ones that are important. So have a look at those. And Adobe has reaffirmed its forecast that US retailers are expected to drive a record 23.88 billion in online spending during July 8th to the 11th of the Amazon Prime Day event window, up 28.4%. Now remember, if these numbers actually come through and you do actually see it go up to 28.4% and higher, it's more than likely that you're going to start seeing a lot of these stocks that actually fell yesterday on this news, including Amazon, start heading higher. So I think it probably does look like you're going to see a bounce on Affirm, and you're going to be seeing a bounce on Amazon. You're going to be seeing a bounce on a lot of these stocks that actually have taken a hit yesterday. Look at Shopify yesterday. It was down about 3.58%. I wouldn't be surprised if you can see a move all the way back up to 118, 119, right? And quite likely that you start seeing it move even higher. Anyways, let's try seeing what else is currently going on in this world before we get to some of the news on the market. Let's actually look at some of the stocks. So Starbucks is up about, let me actually see if I can put this in. Right, Starbucks is up about 3%. So that's actually a big move for Starbucks. So you are seeing that pretty much heading higher, and it does look like moving up because there has been a lot of momentum. Remember, 8% of Starbucks revenues come from China. So if you look at their whole business model, if 8% of the revenues come from China, you're expecting about a $7 to $8 billion business, right? Now, Starbucks as a company is a $100 billion company. You look at 8% of that, about 8 billion US dollars is what the valuation for Starbucks on a great number should be for their Chinese business. Now, if you take a look and you account for it as the Chinese business being worth about 6 to 8 billion, they've gotten bids all the way up to 10 billion. So from 5 billion to 10 billion is their number that's currently been working around. So that's actually pretty material, right? Let me see if I can get the article up here. Yeah, Starbucks China attracts bids valuing the coffee chain at up to 10 billion US dollars, right? So you're actually seeing that move higher. Now, I'll put this up there so you guys can see it as well. I'm going to put it up in the chat. So there's a chat where you can just keep reading all of that. What it says is bids for Starbucks China have valued it at up to 10 billion US dollars. Three people familiar with the deal process told CNBC Starbucks is in the process of evaluating the offers, deal structure proposals, and post-sale value creation pitches. This is Starbucks officially saying we remain committed to China and want to remain a meaningful stake in the business. Any deal must make sense for Starbucks business and partners. So let's see how that turns out. Let's see. China's attracted offers for a potential stake sale, valuing the coffee chain at up to 10 billion US dollars. Three people familiar with the deal process, right? So Starbucks market cap hovers around the 108 billion, with its China business generating over 8% of global revenue. Fair valuation would stand at about 9 billion, according to one person familiar with the matter, and they have got bids between 5 and 10. So that's why you're seeing the stock up today pretty sizably, up about 3%. When was the last time I saw? You saw on the 1st of July another 3% move, 3.5. You saw a 4% move on the 11th of June. The earnings day, it actually fell 5%, but it recovered from the lows of 75 all the way up to 80. Today, trading at about 97. So if I go in and look at since Brian Nickel came in, the stock had moved from 86 all the way to 117, and now 117's come all the way lower to about 76. So anyway, 76 has flipped and now is at 97. So that looks actually pretty good. Let me just go ahead and try seeing if I can put the light on. Okay, there you go. Yeah, so stock's up about 3% right now. I wouldn't be surprised if we can actually take out the $100 number pretty aggressively. We could head towards the 108 and then the 128. Now, those are my targets for Starbucks. I actually think that it is quite likely that it can head there in the next year. If that does happen, it looks pretty bullish for the stock. All right. One of the options that I was looking at was a 15th January 2027 $110 call. Let's see if that actually happens. All right. That could actually be a pretty big move on Starbucks. Now, I'm not sure if that happens, but the option that I was looking at was priced at about $7, trades at about 9 today, and I would expect 9 to be at about 32, getting out of these slumps at this moment. Anyways, so that's Starbucks. Let me see if there's something more here. All right. In a statement to CNBC, a spokesperson for Starbucks said that the company plans to keep a meaningful stake in the business, and shortlisting may be concluded in 2 months, but the entire deal is unlikely to be completed by the end of this year. Okay, cool. McDonald's did the same thing back in 2017. They sold a part of their business to private equity company in China, and then a part of their business to Carlyle later. And that's been the thing. A lot of speculation was on the fact that Starbucks would be quitting China. I don't really think that's happening at this moment. It doesn't look like that's not their game at this moment that they even want to play. Anyways, let me just go ahead and put this link up on Twitter as well. So everyone can join in from there as well. Yeah, Bitcoin's actually been moving higher. It's not something that I was expecting it to happen, but you are seeing some form of a move picking up there. But that's good. Anyway, so that's Starbucks, 3.34% higher. About it was trading at about 95. Now it's at about $98.11. So if we can take out the $100 number, I would be pretty interested in seeing if $100 can be taken out and it can move towards the 108, 110 number. That would be pretty interesting. Anyways, let's get on with a few more stocks. Let's see what else other than Starbucks is currently making moves. Amazon is up about 0.41%, not too much, but I would still expect their Prime Day sales because they have a 4-day sale instead of a single day sale. So that's going to be affecting them a bit, but eventually I think they should be fine. I don't see them having too much of an issue. We got MicroStrategy up about 1.3. We got Lululemon that is still lower, so it's not really been doing too well. Starbucks up 3.21. T-Mobile down 1.85%. So that's the only one that's actually lower. Tesla's flat. Tesla actually was up yesterday all the way up to about 303, and then 303 dropped down to about 298. So that stock's not been doing pretty well. Uber, though, has still been. Uber closed at day's high, 97.70.48, and 97.48, and now looks like it's going to be opening at 97.75. So that's a pretty good move on Uber. Okay, let's see. Some of these quantum computing, look at Ionic and look at Rigetti Computing, both of them up about 1%. They were down about 2% yesterday. So yeah, some kind of a move back, but nothing too fancy. SoFi yesterday about 5, closed at about 3.69, and still up 1% in pre-market. So you're still at the $20 number, right? Now, that's a pretty good number that's currently going on. Now, Rocket Company is a company that's trading at 13.74. It was up 1.7. The previous day, it was down 5%. So look at that. Remember, Rocket Company is a company that I'm looking at because if the Fed starts cutting rates in the next 6 months and you start seeing substantial moves in refinancing, one of the best companies to do that is going to be Rocket Company, because a lot of people are going to be going and refinancing their mortgages at lower interest rates because the market is pretty dead. The real estate market is clobbered. It's completely done and over with. Construction spending is at a halt. So the only way you get back with this is a company like Rocket Company that basically goes in and does refinancing of your mortgages and makes money on that. And that refinancing boom would basically make Rocket Company's stock end up boom. So you could see it go all the way up to maybe 2021, quite possibly on a good day. But it does look likely. I mean, I wouldn't bet against the fact that don't have a refinancing boom. You just need the Fed to start cutting. That's the main play here. Okay. Let me just see the S&P 500 if they have anything that is of importance. What is OMC? Omnicron Group down about 3.29%, whatever that is, no one cares. I'm just trying to see if there's anything fancy that's happened. T-Mobile down, Wynn Resorts has been flying all the way from about $67 in April to about $110. So Wynn Resorts saw a surge in stock value following a rise in Macau's gambling revenue in June, benefiting alongside other casino operators. So there is a boom in casino operators. There is also the Wynn Casino that's coming up in the UAE. So that's another move that's happening. Looks like the stock can head. It's already down pretty much from $249 a share, which was in 2014. I'm not sure if that's going to go back to 214, but it does look like it's at 110 and can move higher. If we have anything, Enphase has been crashing. $339 stock now down to 39, even though it went from $1 to 339. So that's been happening there. Let's go check what's happening with some of these IPO stocks, right? Circle was down about 1.28, pretty much flat there. CoreWeave was buying Core Scientific, so stock had fallen and was down another 5% yesterday. It did recover day before yesterday, about 8% higher, but then today it is down. So Monday's trade, it was up about 8%. Today it's down 5. Pre-market is still up 2.3. So let's see what happens there. Chime is an IPO. That's the only one that actually went up. The day that it IPO'd, it made a high at about 44 and then's been coming down. So nothing really great's been happening on the front of Chime. But what am I looking at? Chime is flat. Chime is down another 1.74. It's not able to break the $33 number. If it does break 33, it looks like then possibly it can head higher. Until then, you don't really see too much of a move happening. So that's that. I mean, there is nothing too fancy. The USD JPY has been picking up. The dollar is steady. It's pretty much at the highs of July. So that's not saying anything because I mean it's just been one way all the way lower. So it's come all the way from 110 down to 97. Used to be at 96.50. Now it's trading at about 97.50. So nothing incredible that happened there. Anyways, let's go over crypto 102434. No, no moves that are actually worth looking at this moment. XRP, ETH, Solana, some of them moving up a bit, but nothing too fancy. To the time you don't break out of that 110, 112 number for Bitcoin, it's going to be pretty wild. Now that it does look like it's going to happen any moment now because you are seeing that play out in charts, at least the way I look at it right now. So let's see, all right, how this currently plays out. Trump's supposed to be visiting Britain in the coming weeks. So, okay. They already got their trade deal done, so I don't know what he's visiting them for. But let's see how that pans out. I mean, it'll just be maybe one more of his meet and greets. He did have some tariff news yesterday, right? So we'll go over that as well to see exactly what's currently going on. Because you had so much amount of, I mean, so much amount of nonsense that was actually happening. It was just crazy at some point of time. In the cabinet meeting that lasted for about an hour and 40 minutes, there was just absolutely unbelievable stuff that it just kept going on and on. They kept saying, okay, now tariffs, no tariffs. And they said, okay, August 1st will not change. It's 100% firm. Then they said, no, it's maybe not 100% firm. I'm like, guys, you guys, it's just continuously going on and on and on. So CoreWeave did become the first AI cloud provider to make Nvidia's RTX, the Blackwell chips that they have, generally available. These new GPUs deliver up to 5x faster LLM inference and 3.5x faster text to video generation. So that is looking like that is CoreWeave. That's the reason CoreWeave is up about 2.5% if you go and look at it in charts, right? Hmm. Yeah, so Starbucks up about 3% purely because of the interest in the China yield stake, right? That's the one that's currently going on. Anything else that's currently there? Let me see. Wind Resorts down 1.2%. That's a SETI downgrade. Super Micro has been initiated and underperformed by PFA. We should actually study this Starbucks story a lot more. That'll actually be fun to see whether you actually do have some form of a sale. Because remember, these guys got to keep a lot of attention back on the China tariffs and China trade war as well. You don't want them to sign a deal with someone in China and then realize that it's not possible to get that done. United Health says no evidence of wrongdoing, no evidence that they were overpaid or did anything wrong. Let's go check what happened to United Health stock price. 304, so down about 1%. Let me actually add it into my prospective list. This might be one of them that actually starts turning up. Who knows? $279 billion company trades at a price to earnings of 12.8. Let's see the leaps. Let's go see what's happening in the leaps. Shares of the coffee chain jumped almost 2% after CNBC reported that Starbucks China has drawn bids for a potential stake sale. Okay, 2% is now 3%. Starbucks is up about 3, so take that as you wish. Okay, let's actually see how United Health will do if we buy an option on United Health. Let's not go out too far because I'm not sure if it can recover so easily. But let's say if we go in like maybe, let me see, it's currently trading at 300. I'm not sure if it can actually go down all the way to there, but nah, this doesn't make sense on this one. $300 stock, unless and until you actually see a double on it, it's not really going to make you any money. So I'm not going to be paying time value of money for that. But yeah, so I think the good part with that happened with Starbucks is the fact that they came out and said that they're not quitting China. They're looking to continue in China. They're looking to continue with their stake in China. They want a meaningful stake. They didn't say they want a majority stake. They said they want a meaningful stake. So take that as you will, but that is a good sign. United Health, the health insurer, saw shares dipping more than 1% after Wall Street Journal reported the Justice Department's Criminal Healthcare Fraud Unit is investigating the company's Medicare billing practices. Okay. Cool. Let's get on with it. White House trade advisor just said markets understand trade letters are negotiations. So we're back to square one with tariffs. They're all negotiations, were all deals in order to make deals later on. None of that is currently going on at this moment. So it is what it is, guys. Hmm. Let me actually go ahead and save this. You guys have any questions, just drop into the chat. I'm just going in and adding a few of these things onto my watch later so I can continue that on the YouTube. Anyways, buy rating on Google. What was Google trading at? I remember Google was down to 176. I actually see that it possibly could break into the 180, 182 levels. I don't actually think Google will do badly. Google does look like it can move higher. The 200 number seems like it can be achieved this year. Might take some time though, but I think if you get to about, you break the 180, 182 level of resistance, you can then head into possibly the 200 numbers very easily. It's not really that far. Yeah, let's actually see what happens here. 175 goes to 200. Next 3 months. How much do you make? Okay, that's not a bad return. So maybe we can look at Google as well. So let's add Google into our prospective list. Yeah. What do we have? Reddit was down 5% yesterday. That was actually a bad fall. So Reddit was at 164 and now it looks like it's down 11% from the high. So it's not like it's actually recovering. It's actually getting worse. But yeah, keep in mind that it actually went from a $96 all the way to $165 level. So you are seeing substantial amount of move happening on Reddit. It's not like it's just down 10% from its high few 4 days back. But this is a stock that moves 4-5% every day. It's not something that's, I would bet you might even see 270, $280 this year or next year at max. But quite possible that we can see $200 in the next 6 months. These are again my bets. I'm not saying that it's going to do that, neither do I know. 51 points up on the Nasdaq, about what are we, 50 minutes away from trading? No, 40 minutes away from trading. 51 points up on the Nasdaq. So the volatility index is really falling. It's at 16.11. So that's that. You guys know that Japan's population was 128 million in 2008 and is now dropped to 123.7. I think it's the only place in the world where the population might have dropped. I mean, place of considerable importance. Yeah, White House trade advisor. Let me put this in for the chat so you guys know exactly what's happening when I'm looking at something. But the fact that they keep coming out and saying that, hey, these tariffs are negotiations seems like it's just, I don't know, looks a bit fishy, but be that as it may. Okay, let's go over some of the more important news. Why is this stock up 40% in pre-market? There's a stock called Class Over Holdings. Increases Solana holdings by 300%. Surpasses 50,000 Solana tokens in treasury reserve. Share is up 40% in pre-market. This reminds me a bit of the 2021 bull market, when we actually had that bull market come through. Some of this reminds me of that. Anyways, let's get this. Adobe forecast US retailers drove $7.9 billion in online spending on July 8th. That's a 9.9% growth. Strong deals drove many consumers to trade up to higher ticket items. Now, usually when you see people trade up to higher ticket items, that's never a scenario where the consumer is pushing back, pulling back. Nothing like that is happening if they are going into higher ticket price items, right? The sales tally marks the single biggest e-commerce day so far this year. For context, Adobe highlighted that the Amazon Prime Day retail spending estimates surpassed what consumers spent online during Thanksgiving 2024. So Thanksgiving last year was a $6.1 billion number. We're now at a $7.9 billion number. So any of you that want to think that the consumer is weakened, I don't know what to say, right? Let's break down the Prime Day sales, right? Amazon's Prime Day sales. Adobe reported online sales across US retailers were driven by categories including appliances, up 135%, electronics up 95%, tools and home improvement up 85%, home, garden, furniture, everything else up about 45 to 35%. Majority of the sales came through mobile devices, so that's 50.2. Across all categories tracked, the share of the most expensive goods increased by 20% compared to average levels. Right? Amazon's Prime Day sales event is matched with overlapping sales events from Walmart, Target, Best Buy, Kohl's, and other retailers. Now, that's actually saying that Amazon's done pretty well. Incredible, right? Okay, let's try seeing if we have more news. Emirates to accept Bitcoin for flights. Let consumers pay for flights using crypto starting next year. Wow. Wow. That is just incredible. That's actually not something that I would have expected, but it does seem like it is happening. So cool. All right. That's why CRO, which is the token of crypto.com, is up about 17% for the week because Emirates is accepting. You can now book tickets through Emirates using Bitcoin. Anyways, so a lot of you might not know this, but the best Dow Jones Industrial stock for this year is IBM. Wow, 32% up year to date for the Dow. The worst, obviously, is United Health. But do you know in the five worst, the fourth worst on the Dow Jones Industrial Average for the worst performing year to date number is Apple, down about 16.14%. So Apple's actually not done. If you put a chart of Apple and you put a chart of the S&P 500, you will see that Apple's not been performing pretty well. It's almost $1 trillion away from Nvidia's market cap now. I actually do think they will recover. They might just go out and buy Perplexity or they'll get something done with OpenAI. They'll do it sooner than we imagine it to be done. I wouldn't bet against these guys, but I do think that it is going to be likely that they do come in with something. Because we got NR in the house and he says Apple will make a strong comeback. This happened every time they have enough capital to bounce back, or they'll buy, bro. That's the other thing, right? They might just come out and buy. That's just the next likely scenario that I actually believe they could just put 30 to 40 billion and buy out Perplexity. And at some price, everyone's up for sale, right? So what I'm trying to say is that I don't think they're going to come in and lead and go and I don't think they're going to come lead, try getting into being the leader of AI right now. I think they just wanted to play catch up. And the best catch up that they can do right now is to just throw the entire Siri model out and just put an entire new LLM in instead of Siri. Whether that's Perplexity, whether that's OpenAI, the problem is these guys want so much control on their inner workings that it'll be really tough for them to actually do that. But if they can, I think they can. The stock could be up 10% in a day or 8% in a day, and everyone will be screaming about Apple then. So that's quite likely. Anyways, what do we have? So Starbucks is now up about 2.9% in pre-market. The China news seems to be pretty good for them because they are getting almost a $10 billion valuation on their Chinese business just for an 8% of their revenue. So that's not a bad deal at all. You see what happened to Elon and Dan Ives? So Dan basically said that he should now go ahead and they pass some resolution in the board. And let me actually find the tweet. Oh, did he take it down? I don't think so. Anyways, so Dan Ives comes out and says that the Tesla board must act and create ground rules for Musk. This soap opera must end. They need to look at a new pay package that would give Musk 25% voting control and a clear path for a merger with XAI. Guardrails for the amount of time Musk spends at Tesla and oversight on his political endeavors. Elon replies, "Shut up, Dan." That's all he says. So fascinating. I mean, we might be on the cusp of them actually going and buying because it will take them about $30 billion to buy out Perplexity. Quite likely that these guys can actually do that. It wouldn't really burn them. And I think it's quite likely that if that news comes in, dude, the stock will be up like 7 to 8%. That's a 200, $300 billion increase in market value for a $30 billion that Apple has going to have to spend. Obviously, I understand it's not an apples to apples comparison, but quite likely that they can do that. I mean, they're sitting on about, wait, how much cash do these guys have? I think it's over 49 billion, right? So, but they totally have like crazy amount of money considering that they have over 200 $300 billion in cash excluding the debt that they have on their books. So anyways, I mean, they could just go and buy that out and not have to worry about any of these ecosystem issues anymore. And you know what? The only thing is that they've never bought out a company this big. The only last acquisition that Apple did was Beats, and that was for 3 billion. So making them spend 30 billion, I don't know how that's going to work. But yeah, they got so much money. They make $25 billion a year, right? A year worth of net income just given away. They can make so much amount of money. It could be just unreal what's currently going on. Ah, so the best performing ETFs in country specific: Greece, Poland, Spain, South Korea. Who would have expected? Greece, Poland, Spain, and South Korea. Greece and Poland are above 55%. Spain and South Korea are up 40%. Austria, Italy, Germany is up about 33, 34, 39%. So huge moves. United States is up only 5%. So that's actually not doing pretty well. Thailand is down 15%. Thailand's prime minister or president, whomsoever she is most likely going to get thrown out or whatever is happening there. There's some issue of corruption. I don't know what's going on, but Elon and SpaceX, Starlink has received a license to launch commercial operations in the country. So seems like they're going to be coming into India now. Mm. So since 1990, despite periods of volatility, the S&P 500 has continued rising near all-time highs with a median 12-month gain of 13.15% and positive returns more than 82% of the time. Let me put this out there. So for all of you that come in and actually look at this, will Trump's tariff tank markets or is it just noise? A lot more people believe that markets will bounce back. So let's see how that happens. I actually do think the markets will bounce back. We might have some form of a move lower, maybe. We've already been getting some days lower, but not too much. But it can come through. EU's commission says aims to reach a trade deal with the US before August 1st, potentially even in the coming days. I don't know. I mean, they could say something right now and then turn up and say something completely different later on. So I'm not buying into whatever they're saying. But quite likely that they might come to the table and do it as well. Hmm. Valuation of SpaceX is set to hit around 400 billion. They're raising more money. Incredible. Yeah, this is a new thing that's currently going on. They're saying Kevin Hassett is now a serious contender for the next Fed chair. Wall Street Journal reports that White House advisor Kevin Hassett met with Trump at least twice in June about the Fed job. Trump's shortlist reportedly includes Kevin Hassett, Kevin Walsh, Christopher Waller, and Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. Now, what I do believe is the two options that they have is going to be Kevin Walsh and Christopher Waller. Sorry, Kevin Hassett and Christopher Waller. If Powell decides to step aside after his period of chairmanship and he continues to sit on the board, then it's likely that Christopher Waller becomes the chief. Else, I actually do think Kevin Hassett would be the one that comes in and becomes. As of now, it's a 24% for Kevin Hassett. 24% chance that he does come in. All right. So New York Fed comes in and says, survey of consumer expectations. He says year ahead expectations about households' financial situations have improved, with a larger share of households expecting a better financial situation. So consumers are not really that weak at all. Yeah, this is what I saw today, right? The German stock index, the DAX, is now up at an all-time high, closed at since June 4th. So let's actually go see what the DAX is currently doing. 24,512 up about 1.25% for today. So it's quite likely, man. It is heading into an all-time high scenario. The last time it did that was on June 4th, came all the way back down post that and then been going, right? It's fascinating to see how global markets have actually done better than the American stock market in the first 6 months and 9 days, right? Trying to see if we can go ahead and see. So we got what 20 minutes for the market to open. It's going to be a lot of. I'm going to look at the FOMC minutes that come out at 2 p.m. Eastern today. It's going to detail the issues of debate and consensus among the policymakers. What have they been deciding to do, whether it's with each other, deciding to go against each other, because we have seen some dissents that have come in. Some of them have more cuts than they've been saying that the July cut is likely. Two of them, Christopher Waller as well as Michelle Bowman, both have been saying they're looking forward to cuts. So yesterday, copper had a big move. Remember, he's putting in a 50% tariff on copper. So that took copper up like no tomorrow. Yesterday, copper actually went from $5 to $5.90. So that's about to $6 almost, came back lower. It's now at about $5.60. So still up 1.5% today. Pretty high. It's actually been a huge move on copper. And you are sitting at an all-time high for copper. So it's actually moved all the way from 2022 lows of about $3 all the way up to 6. Let me actually see what's happening with gold and silver. Gold's down about 0.2%. Silver's down 1.12. So that's actually come a bit lower. Platinum was up, but now lower again. So that's okay. Oil is slowly trickling up. A lot of people have not been noticing, but oil has been trickling up. After the Israel-Iran tensions had actually cooled off, you saw a $63 oil, which is now gone to about 67. So it's not in the 70s yet. Till the time we're not in the 70s, 72s, we have nothing to worry about. But let's see. Natural gas is down 5%. Great. It's falling like a brick. Used to be at somewhere around $5 in February. Today at about $3.10. So that's natural gas for you. Just trying to see if I can find something. Yeah, rest of the market looks pretty okay. The Red Bull guy got sacked 20 years after being a team principal. Okay, bad for him. Yeah, oil's been creeping closer to $70. That's actually something that I have been seeing. I don't know if this actually happened, but Kremlin on CNN report that Trump once threatened to bomb Moscow if Putin invaded Ukraine. I mean, Kremlin says that they're unclear to US if this is fake or not. I don't know what's happening about that, but so Apple's currently, because of their Formula One success that they saw in the movie, which has grossed them about 300 million in their first 10 days, they're currently in talks to acquire the F1 broadcast rights next year, challenging ESPN. So this move follows the success of Apple's F1 movie, which has pretty much made 300 million now. That's another thing that they can look at doing. Pretty much chump change for them. But again, let's see. Netflix, I don't think is going to be one of them that's going to come in. They might bid, but Netflix has always been the one company that's always actually taken things a little slowly. They go and build their own niche around something. And Formula One's actually become very, very successful post the Netflix show of Drive to Survive. So let's see. Yeah, Carvana was one of them that actually has reversed. It's been a story to tell, actually. You used to see this stock at about, I remember seeing it down all the way from $376 a share to $3 a share, back to $359 a share. Still not hit an all-time high. I actually do think it's quite likely that it's going to be going there and hitting the 376 number, but that's 100x since the lows of January 2023. It's just absolutely crazy what's happening there. Trump says he has brought down costs more than any president in history. He says he brought down costs than any president in recorded history. Crooked Democrats are using the opposite narrative, even they don't know it's a total lie. Anyways, it's irrespective. So are we climbing the wall of worry? Yes, possibly we are. I would expect that we are climbing the wall of worry for sure. Uh, is it look like we will get worse off? Maybe not, but I actually do think it's quite likely that markets can keep going higher another 5 to 7%, and then we might steady from there, maybe lower, pull back, possibly even a short-term correction. Maybe not 10%, maybe 5 to 7% is quite likely though. The Starbucks chart is actually kind of looking a lot more decent. It's just trading within a range. Till the time we don't break out of that 125 level, we're not really heading into new highs. But it does look pretty decent. Anyways, it's going to be a pretty much not so fascinating day yet. Yet, we still have the market to open. Falling home prices are raising the risk of a deeper correction as the housing market cracks under high mortgage rates. So Kevin Walsh is the John Kerry of central bank. He's for rate cuts before he was against them. The 180 we saw last week. Okay, anyways. HIMS is planning a Canada expansion in 2026. Let's look at what's happening there. They basically got screwed over the Novo deal, but the stock is up 3.55 today and at about $50.70. Let's actually see what the whole story with the leaps is. What is it? HIMS. 72 was the high. That's about 4 to 5 months back. That was just before the tariff trade, 72. We went all the way to 65 and then Novo pulled the plug and then it dropped about to 40. So that's not a good sign, but let's see. Mm. Planned expansion into Canada in 2026. Okay, let's see. ChatGPT has 225 million global mobile DAUs, up 503%. Gemini hit 32 million, up 12%. Google still loses with 2 billion. Google's death seems greatly exaggerated. Yeah, I would agree with that. Kind of tough to do that. It's not so easy. Still a lot more people to get into the whole trade scenario for this. Anyway, so let me just go ahead. Let me close this. Too early to tell is what we're guessing everyone's saying at this moment. So I'm going to put an end to the poll. You should see the results of the poll right there. Okay. So let's enjoy the market that's currently going on. White House trade advisor just said Apple thinks it's too big to tariff. He says Federal Reserve should cut rates in July. And they're saying that they don't care. They might just go and tariff Apple. So Apple has moved from a positive in pre-market to now a negative. But let's see how that plays out. At this moment, Peter Navarro is saying Apple thinks that it's too big to tariff, and he says Federal Reserve should cut rates in July. I mean, this is just plain comedy right now. But anyways, appreciate everybody joining in. Have fun. Take care of yourselves. I will maybe do a post market or a closing. So join it for that. Thank you.